listening to the Insight NBL Show with your hosts, Matrix and Hammer.
Mate, we're here and we're here to talk about super pods. Now that it comes to the pointy end of the season, you might find yourself, a few hundred points out from first place. How are you going to make up that ground? And it's not from going with the pack, which honestly probably got you to this spot in general. It probably running with your normal guys that you go with got you there. We're going to give you 6 guys at less than 4% owned at the moment that could help you win your head-to-head leagues or move up the ranks. I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, for sure. Differentiating yourself from the pack. This is the round, and the next round is the rounds to do it. Every team's on the double. You don't have to be too concerned about the schedule. Maybe change up something. I'm expecting a lot of teams to, of those 5 starting positions, I'm expecting 6 guys to be in most of those teams. So this is the round, man. You've got a heap of guys you could look at.
Yeah, and it's more like when you see Illawarra, Tasmania, and New Zealand on the double, everybody's going to have Kell and PJC in your guard spot. It opens right up for these next couple weeks. And look, the first one I'm going to go with is New Zealand Breakers centre, 7'6" centre, Taco Fall. Now, he hasn't really been on our radars. We've been unimpressed. But since PJC's out, he has been scoring really well. He's had an uptick of minutes, maybe a little bit healthier than he was, at 2.3% owned. Could you get around Taco Fall?
I'm all of a sudden really high on Taco, and I'll tell you why. With PJC out, they're playing differently. The way they look for him, the game against Perth the other day, it was old school basketball. Get a little cross screen, establish him in the low block, give him the ball. He's too big, he's too tall, he's too strong, he's too talented. He got it done. He had like 28 Supercoach points at halftime. I think he finished with about 40, and they just fed the big fella. It was good.
It was dunk city too. Like, not that we need to be impressed with him dunking, but when you're throwing guys like Jesse Wagstaff at him, like that's like, throwing me at a normal sized person.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Taco Fall, really interesting because we do have PJC coming back in a couple games.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot of, I suppose what Pleb was saying about PJC being disinterested in the league and wanting to leave. I want to see how that pans out. But surely if PJC is watching the games, being around his boys and seeing this success with Taco Fall, if you had a 2-headed snake in PJC, or 3-headed snake, PJC, Matt Mooney making his shots and Taco Fall being inside, like you've got to, like a light has to pop on for him, right?
Yeah. And I think it's low risk, high return. You think of all the other centers, and we've got a show coming up, so I won't go too much into it about the different center options, but this is a position I think you could really pod. There's a lot of mid guys at the moment that guys are holding. This one could be a really low risk, high return option for you.
Yeah, as I said, 3 doubles in a row, heads into 2 singles later on, but he might just rise in cash for you to get basically whoever you want as well.
Yeah, and he hasn't been as bad as we thought. I just went back through his game log, and he's been over 25 a game, which has been thereabouts with a lot of center options.
I expected him to be 180K by now. He's 230K and rising. So kudos to you, Big Taco. On Taco Tuesday, you have impressed me. Mate, Taron Armstrong, it's really hard to pot it up in these guard spots because of all your KDs, your Kell in fantastic form. Everybody's had Cooks and stuff like that. But Taron Armstrong's about to be 300K, coming off his best game, a win in Illawarra. He's been cooking. Cairns have the best schedule in the comp. Like, there's a world where you fade at least one of these other guys. Maybe you don't have a Kell or somebody like that, and just get a Taron Armstrong, and you could get better return if Kell went missing one game. Because Tyler Harvey's always sitting there for a bloke like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you've mentioned Cairns had the strongest schedule for the remaining portion of the season. I don't think he's a starter right now. I think he could be on some of those late rounds. But if you have the luxury of maybe a Derek Walton Jr. downgrade on your bench, if you're not playing him as a starter this week, maybe a Kell, something like that, I'd park him on the bench and hold him for a few rounds because he's starting to find some form. We've liked Taron for 2 years. Just every time Cairns get to a good bit of the schedule, he's injured or there's some other reason we can't play him. But look, 300K, it's not the worst option. A Keandre Cook sideways move, a Derek Walton Jr. sideways move. I quite like it.
If you're parking him on the bench, right, and I'm looking at the schedule, like I really like Derek Walton Jr. I think he's been playing really well. But if you give Taron Armstrong an extra game than Derek Walton Jr., and half, so that is impacted, I still think you'll probably outscore him. And you're probably going to be making some money from that now. So if you could use that 30K, like it is sort of like a mini downgrade option, punting on that extra one game, isn't it?
Yeah. The only thing that scares me a little bit with Taron is he's been very reliant on points to get his Supercoach scores. He had 28 in the last game. This is a guy, we've talked about it over and over. Coming out of college, he was, the second coming of Chris Paul. He was an assist guy. He had the giddy, cross court, that kind of stuff going on. But we haven't seen it translate to the NBL. His assist numbers are half of what we expected. So, look, he's relying on points. Might have to look at the matchups, but I like him as a bench option and like a round 20 starter.
I'm putting a little bit of this down to the fact that I also don't think Cairns have translated to an NBL team. They're playing more like an NBL 1 team. So Taron, when he passes it on to someone, they're just not making shots. But that's just my 2 cents, just bagging out the little brothers from up north. Bryce Cotton is only 3.5% owned, and I think a lot of people will stay away from him, opting to go for KD, who has a little bit better schedule, I think. And like his huge games, everybody's just been watching them. There was, of course, the suspension, and they're watching. Everybody's been watching that as well. I do think there's a world, maybe not fading KD, but if you can afford it, KD and Cotton are the best 2 guys to have. And I think a lot of people won't be able to afford Cotton.
Yeah. Look, he's had a big round. He had 59, I think it was last game, or the first game of the round, this one. Hey, that's the ultimate backcourt for me too. KD, Bryce Cotton. I don't think you can do much better. The question then is, if it comes down to an affordability issue, do you run with the pack with the backcourt and have a lesser front court, or do you try and pot it and just try and hedge your bets that Bryce has a down game and you maybe go a KD and a Jalen Adams, or a KD and a Kell, and then you go maybe a pod somewhere else?
Well, my problem is Jalen Adams is nearly 10% owned at the moment. Cotton is 3.5%. You were talking about hedging your bets. I think it's going after Cotton is the super pod move, I suppose, like rather than running with the pack. Now we just did a pod, and it would have come out about 4 hours before this one, about downgrade options. I think Bryce Cotton is good enough that if you can downgrade somewhere else, Cotton will make up the extra points that you were getting from, say, your 230K guy down to, say, a 90K guy, and getting a Keandre Cook or somebody that's been marinating on your bench all the way up to Bryce Cotton. That's the perfect world for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Cotton, KD's the backcourt I want to target. My only sort of asterisk to that is I'm not selling the farm to do it. If you have to then start like a Darius Days,
Surely not.
A Josh Bannon to do it, I wouldn't. But if you can maintain a really solid starting group, go with some of the downgrade options. Make sure you get onto that last pod we dropped. I think you can manage it. Cotton, KD, backcourt's elite.
Mate, just want to preface all that we've been doing on our Patreon. We've got 7 different sports on there at the moment. We've even got guys looking at the difference between AFL Fantasy and AFL Supercoach. It starts at $6 a month for your preferred sport. Gets you chatting to lots of like-minded people. I've just, for example, finished a North Queensland Cowboys Supercoach preview. I know that you do lots of positional previews, and we get our last-minute captain options, and we let everybody know our trades in there.
Mm.
Get in, have a little bit of a chat. We've got a promo coming where you get our corduroy hat if you sign up for 12 months. But look, I think that you could pop in, see what's happening, even sign up as a free member. I know we've been dropping lots of free content as well as paid content. Just get you a direct line to us, and I genuinely just think that it's worth it.
Yeah, getting amongst a community of like-minded people. And I think of the 7 sports we run, we've got guys in the top 1% of all sports. So it's an elite company, and you definitely get something out of every time you jump in.
Yeah, beat your mates. Ask us for some help. Majok Deng, mate, 2.6% owned. He's 230K. Was a touch pricier than I thought when I was looking at him. But just for a guy with that upside, I think that it is exactly as advertised, a super pod, and I could get around it.
Yeah, and sometimes he will have a breakout game. Look, he's solid, but every now and then he's just a microwave and he will go off and they'll run with the hot hand. We've seen it in the finals last year. We've seen it throughout certain games this season, and they're thin up front. Magne's out, and this Hummer guy, man, it's like the original Space Jam where they've all lost their powers. He's forgotten how to play basketball when he got off the plane from Japan. So, look, Majok Deng's a look.
Mate, and I'm talking about getting across from a guy like Darius Days and doubling your points.
Yeah.
Nathan Sobey, there's a reason he's 411K at the moment. He
411.
bottomed out. Yeah, he bottomed out earlier on in the year.
We
I'm
need
not
to
saying
reprint
it's
your T-shirt. It's not he might make 100K, he might make 300K. This is news.
and he's been huge. And what I've liked about him, he's still performed well without Derek Walton Jr. Look, if you wanted a super pod, Derek Walton Jr. is becoming very highly owned in the top 5%. So if you wanted to pot it up, you could hope that Derek Walton Jr. did shit the bed and Sobey benefits. He's still dropping 40 pieces like they're going out of fashion. I would argue Sobey's in career best form at the moment.
Yeah, I like it, but you're paying 411K. You have to start him. And my question then is, who are you not starting? Yeah, it's a pod. I don't think I can do it. But if you can't afford Cotton versus Sobey, is it a poor man's Cotton?
Yeah, if you fell just short, I could see a world where having a pod player like Sobey over a Trey Kell, just because I don't think Kell and Tyler Harvey's Supercoach points aren't as conducive with them both having big games as much as Sobey and Derek Walton Jr. are. If Southeast Melbourne are humming the way that they've been humming, I think that Sobey could outscore basically all three of those guys I just mentioned from Illawarra and Southeast Melbourne.
Yeah, for sure. I like it.
Mate, Josh Bannon, I have kind of been talking about him as a downgrade option a little bit. I know you've been a bit butthurt by him, so I actually don't even want your opinion on it. But but he is 238K. He had a break even of 41. Everybody's gone, oh, fuck, he's going to drop it. Sorry. Fluff. He's going to drop in cash. And he didn't. He scored 38 Supercoach points, got the double, played 28 minutes off the bench, and played very good against what I think is a really good Sydney outfit. Still 3 doubles in a row for Josh Bannon, 230K. Could score really, really well in the next couple.
Yeah, look, he's up there in price now and will probably rise this week.
He won't.
You don't think he will?
No, he's break even of 41. Oh, no, he's still got another game.
One game.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, he's going to rise in cash.
He's going to rise. So, look, he's probably tickling 300 maybe.
250. 260.
He's 275 at the moment, isn't he?
No, he's 238, my friend.
238. All right, that's a bit more palatable. Look, I don't love it. They've shown us he's now the sixth man. 28 minutes is great in the six-man role, but I'd expect Josh Adams' minutes to increase, which might start to eat into some of the bench roles. Prather has earned himself that starting forward position. There's no questions about it. Prather owns that position. Can you lock in a double-double off the bench every week for Bannon? I'm calling 38 a ceiling game, but he has had some pretty average and floor games that are a lot below that. So I don't think it's great. I don't love it. And I still hold him. I'm trying to get rid of him.
Just remember, 250K is only 21. So I think on all these doubles, we're going to see him score 50 Supercoach points at least each week, which is probably more than I see for a lot of these guys, except for maybe Taco Fall. I think that we could see him score really well for 1 week and then struggle. I just think he nearly made budget ballers, to be honest, because if you're downgrading somebody with a poor schedule at the forward spot to load up and get, if downgrading somebody to Bannon and playing him on the bench gets you cotton, I'm just saying that's worth it.
Yeah. Look, I think he belongs in our downgrade segment, not our pod segment. I think if you're getting him, it's to do something better. This is a guy, and you're forgetting, mate, he hates a double-double. He likes to get to 9 rebounds, and it's like the autistic kid that doesn't want to stop the TV volume on an uneven number. You know, he just hates crossing over to 10 and getting the double-double bonus. It's ridiculous.
No, mate, that actually wraps up our SuperPod segment. Our short. Let us know in the comments if you do like this shorter format. It's getting towards the end of the year. We're trying some new things. Mate, thanks again. You've listened to an Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. Cheerio.